Can I have a trust and a mortgage? I get this question all the time, and I want to break down the law for you here in this video. So let's go. What we're worried about when we have property that is subject to a mortgage and we're thinking about transferring it or deeding it to our trust, what we're worried about is something called a due on sale provision. And what that says is if I have property subject to a mortgage and I transfer it, deed it, sell it, gift it, whatever, the bank says that's fine so long as you pay off your mortgage first, right? Think about it. I enter into a contract to sell my house to Joe Bob down the street, and I say that'll be $300,000 or $300 million. Joe Bob says, that's great. I'll wire you the money. A bit more complex than that. But he sends me the check. The bank says, aren't you forgetting something? The bank wants its mortgage paid off, right? I can transfer the house to Joe Bob, sell it to him, give it to him. Bank doesn't care as long as they get paid off first. What the due on sale clause refers to is upon sale, that mortgage is due. Whatever I've paid half of it off. If I haven't paid any of it off, probably have bigger problems at that point. But they've got to be paid. The bank has to be paid. So that's what we're worried about here. But in 1982, Congress, through the Garn-St. Germain Act, passed a law that has some exceptions. I believe there's 7 or 8 exceptions in the law for when a due on sale clause is unenforceable. The bank cannot enforce it. It's not going to be applicable. And one of those situations has to do with a trust. And we've got 3 elements that we have to satisfy in order for me to be able to transfer property that I own to a trust. Congress says the bank has to be okay with it so long as I meet these 3 elements, and I'm going to walk you through those right now. The first is if the trust is what we call inter vivos or inter vivos. That means it's created during your lifetime, as opposed to, say, coming out of my last will and testament, which would only be created upon my death. So inter vivos, lifetime. The second element that we have to meet is that the borrower on the loan is a beneficiary of the trust. So if I write a trust and I say my son is the beneficiary, unless my son is also on the loan, we're not going to pass that element. Okay. So that's what it means. The borrower on the note or the loan is also a beneficiary of the trust. And then the third element is that the transfer does not relate to a change of rights in the property. So going back to our example of my son, if I said, my son has the exclusive right to live in any real estate, any real property owned by my trust, that's going to present a problem with passing this test because we're not going to pass this element. That would relate to a change of rights in the property. Right now, I can live in it because it's mine. If I write a trust and transfer the property to the trust and say only my son can live in the property, well, then I don't have a right to live in it. This would be silly to do, but I'm using it as an example. I wouldn't pass that element. So those are the 3 elements. Let's walk through them in 3 examples that we'll go through now, and I'll show you why revocable trusts generally don't pose a problem for the due on sale clause because we meet these exceptions. So let's take a revocable trust, sometimes called a living trust or a revocable living trust, and apply it to these elements that we've just learned. First is a revocable trust created during the lifetime of the trust maker. The way I draft them for clients, they are. So we'll pass that element. Secondly is a revocable trust, a situation where the borrower on the loan is also a beneficiary of the trust. Again, the way I draft them for clients, the borrower on the loan is a beneficiary of the trust, whether they have capacity or whether they become incapacitated. That's quite strong language that I generally use there. So we usually pass element number 2. And element number 3, does it relate to a change of rights in the property when I transfer property into my revocable trust or my living trust? And the answer is no. Again, the way I draft them for clients, I'm saying I am the beneficiary and I get to live in the property, or I can sell it as trustee or anything like that. Because of the powers reserved by the trust maker in revocable trusts, Almost always, revocable trusts are not going to pose a problem when we have a mortgage on the property. This is welcome news for many of my clients who have a very specific pain point around this. Now, let's consider irrevocable trusts. And this one is just a different ball game. These are going to be so customizable and they're going to be so varied in what we're trying to accomplish with an irrevocable trust that the answer to each of these three elements could be yes or no. They have to be taken on a case by case basis. With revocable trusts, I'm comfortable saying if you do it right, at least the way I plan for clients, we're almost certainly going to pass these tests. With irrevocable trusts, truly all over the map. It's going to be a case by case basis. Finally, I get this question a lot in the context of an LLC. I'm looking to transfer my property to an LLC and it has a mortgage on it. Can that pass these three elements? And the answer is we generally don't pass these three elements when transferring property to an LLC. So we have to kind of employ other strategies when we're looking to transfer property that we own into the name of an LLC as opposed to a trust, particularly a revocable trust, which generally gets us an A+ grade of passing of all these three elements. So we get the exception to the due on sale clause. I hope you found this video helpful.